We're reconvening into open session. I'll make a notification that there were no votes taken in executive session. And I'd like to have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session by roll call.
Move.
Second.
Allen,
Aye.
Travis Oddie,
Aye.
Hannah Ayott,
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to move the consent agenda?
Yeah, I would like to put one thing on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trying to get back to that screen. 4.4.
4.4 enrollment.
Yes.
Okay, would you like to discuss it now?
We can, sure.
Sure, go for it.
Just curious to where are we with this, because this was put out, I believe, last week. The numbers seem like they're down again from the end of last year. We were at 2, it says, I believe this is 206 for the total enrollment. Absolutely.
Yes.
Sorry.
I pulled the same report this afternoon because I realized that was a little low. It's currently at 216. There's a lot of fluctuation on a daily basis. So I suspect we're going to start school in the 220 range. So that one from the week ago is a little bit low. We just rolled over into Aspen and are just enrolling our preschool kids also. So there's a lot of fluctuation, but my bottom line number is 216 that I printed this afternoon.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you remember what we ended with at the end of last year?
It was pretty close to that.
It was about 221.
As I say, 220.
Was it?
Might have been 219 by the time we had the last two kids leave.
Yeah.
Oh, it was very close.
Okay, thanks.
Aye. So I would consider a motion to move the consent agenda.
You have a motion?
Second.
Allen,
Aye.
Travis Oddie,
Aye.
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Spotlight, Little Compton Community Center and the Little Compton School Department grant funded partnership. Yay.
Yeah, we're doing a terrific partnership. Lori wrote a really great grant and she can explain where the funding came from. And we've got about 25 students participating in the partnership between the community center and the school. I have to say that's the highlight of my summer, to see the little people walking back and forth to the playground and seeing what they're doing. You want to explain the funding?
Absolutely. And I want to share my screen as well. Look at that. Wow. Okay, and here we go. It's not. Yay. Yes. Travis is new, so he has not received my Friday night memos. I gave the staff the summer off, but on Friday nights we send out a pretty comprehensive overview of our week, and I gave you some samples, I believe. And I had referenced ESSER 2 funds and the possibility of using some for a long overdue true partnership with the Little Compton Community Center that has so many great things going on. And so I attended a few workshops regarding just what programming would be eligible. And I sort of reverse engineered it. I reached out first to the person who designs the summer camp, and that's Amy Watts. And I wanted to make sure that she would be game. And that was maybe about May. And so I said, oh, by the way, I will be contacting Doug and Karen, and would you be game, and et cetera. And so she was. And then I got a copy of the draft program for the summer and felt that much of it did sync with the requirements of the stimulus funds, and wrote a grant that would definitely mitigate some of the social, emotional, and also academic vulnerabilities that came to the forefront during the pandemic. And I cannot tell you how successful it has been. Now, the Little Compton Community Center has always been a school partner in many ways, but this was the first formal partnership. And it was a true collaboration. Our clinician, Mary Elizabeth Miller, was also involved. Sonia Whip was involved. And so the final pieces of the grant all came together, with many minds, many eyes on it. And so the community center could add some programming. And they had bike day, once a week. And Amy sent me this, so I can't quite, I'm trying to get them to go larger and they're not. But look at the joy on these kids' faces. Movement had to be a part of the grant. The arts had to be a part of the grant. The science and math piece had to be a part of the grant. Support from the school and the clinician, shared spaces had to be a part of the grant. Shared information about kids had to be a part of the grant. I have to say that I believe, and Sonia Whip may recall, I believe every family that the school reached out to in some way, shape, or form, their child or children participated.
Mhm.
So we're pretty happy about that. So, and we're happy to report that all of the students that had signed up for the camp even before the grant was airborne and was approved, all of those students, their tuition was also paid by the grant. So every single participant went for free to this wonderful, wonderful camp. The minute ESSER 3 comes out this fall, I will be folding in another grant for next summer. And now that we know how to do it, and I cannot thank Amy enough. That is for sure. Amy Boudreau-Lotz was pivotal and constantly reaching out to us, giving us pictures, updates, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it was just, it's still going on, a great experience for all the kiddos. And the school targeted the lower grades, primary grades, lower elementary. There was an artist in residence. There was a certified Zumba instructor. There was just a lot that went on, and we're just so excited. And we sent out sort of a quick press release. We didn't think it would get up to the patch so quickly, but just something really quick. And Amy and I will be working on some more content to push out, to put on social media, to add to our website, so on and so forth. We feel like we've created something replicable for next year and that other communities can scale it out. Definitely, and I'm willing to share grant application with them and the research that we did, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, and at the end of the grant, we do have some indicators that we'll be looking for, and I will be reporting back to the state. But as you could see, it's all really, really good stuff. Yeah, I didn't think we could make it happen, but we did. So silver lining. This awful pandemic.
Terrific, thank you. An IB update? Well,
I've been in touch with Nicole Jones, our IB liaison, and we are set to continue with our process of becoming an IB school. We will be working on developing more unit plans at the teacher level, working on setting expectations now for what next school year will look like, working on pushing out to parents more information about IB education. And as was requested last year, I will work on some spotlights of classroom instruction that can be brought to you on a regular basis so you can see what's going on.
Cool beans.
Is that gonna be for all the, for 5 through 8?
It's 6, 7, and 8 are the three that are, what we're doing, the IB starts at the 6th grade levels. What we're doing is having 5th grade begin to use the terminology and use the learner traits and the teaching strategies. But formally, it's 6, 7, and 8 is what falls in their middle school range. They actually go 6 to 10, I believe,
Mhm.
is what they consider their middle years program.
And Sonia, you're going to be managing the program at this point. Are you looking for, do you think there'll be another,
Yep, we do have some open positions that I think will come up in our next section, and that is one of them. But for the time being, I'm making sure that expectations are in place so that we continue forward as we have been.
great, thank you.
Any questions, concerns, comments?
Very good.
Good.
Great, thank you. Superintendent report, human resources.
Hand this off. Yeah, thank you. I hand this off to our human resources coordinator.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Superintendent. We have 3 active external postings for open positions at Wilbur McMahon School on School Spring. One is for a full-time grade 5 math and science teacher. We are looking for a 0.6. It's a part-time, approximately 3 days per week, Spanish teacher, and a part-time 0.4, approximately 2 days per week, technology teacher. Anyone interested, or if you know anyone interested in any of these positions, they can contact me, they can contact Principal Whip, or simply apply on School Spring.
Educational facility master plan.
I will take that one. I'm trying to be brief. If you remember, I applied for a grant from the School Building Authority, I want to say a year and a half ago. And then COVID hit. And so I applied for an extension in December because it was going to sunset December 31st, 2020. So I did get that extension. And so this grant sunsets in a matter of months, December 31st, 2021. And so I knew I had to put pedal to the metal. And so I used the master price agreement. I reached out, and I did put this in a Friday night memo. I went through a bunch of them, some names I knew, some I didn't, and I reached out. And we did get a few responses, and we did go with Studio Jade, and they will be generating our 5-year capital improvement plan. And so the operations subcommittee of the planning team will oversee that planning process. So we have 4 months to plan for 5 years of improvements at Wilbur McMahon School in our facility. And some of the areas they'll look at will be the usage of space, maybe reapportioning existing space. We do have one less classroom, what we need. So we're looking to reapportion maybe a larger room into a smaller one if we could. We're also thinking of windows. Windows were not replaced, many of them, during the $13 million renovation. I would also like to see, and this is another silver lining, a permanent outdoor classroom similar to what the public library has and what the community center has, maybe 2. And they would be used constantly. We're also going to have them look at our accessibility in terms of the differently abled stakeholders who may not find current entrances and egresses. No one has complained, but we definitely want to fold that in. 50 grand is not a lot, but it will give us a really good view of the next 5 years and what the priorities should be. Mr. McNamee, as the business manager, he said one of his priorities is alternative energy sources. As you know, he has already gone for various economies and efficiencies regarding electricity. We belong to a sort of a cooperative, and he wants to explore solar. And we also want to look at our technology infrastructure as well. I think we all know that the town does not have an infrastructure that is bleeding edge at all when it comes to high-speed internet access, and that's sort of an equity issue, a civil rights issue, really. So these are the members on this particular planning team. It's basically the operations team for the reopening. And this is also prescribed by RIDE. The school building authority says the superintendent of schools must be on it. A member of the school committee must be on it. And Polly Allen, as the chair, is already on the operations and the planning team. Local official responsible for building maintenance, and that would be Christopher Osborne Jr. He's also our small water system licensed operator. And representative of the Office of Body authorized by the law to construct school buildings in the municipality, Tony Texera. He was part of our operations team last year. He and Bill Moore, who is the member of the community with architectural engineering and construction experience, as members of our operations team last year reopening, when we decided to use all of our exits for our stable pods. They split the difference with us to repave the back lot. If you remember, it was all, I sent you pictures that were just horrible. So the final layer of that is going to be laid in 2 weeks. And John McNamee, the local budget official, Jonathan Gabriel, member who has knowledge of the educational mission and function of the facility. As you know, he's the one with the dashboard to the cooling and heating system, school principal. And so these roles are prescribed by RIDE and the School Business Authority. And this group did an amazing job last year with reopening and getting the building ready in terms of ventilation and filtering, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's where we are. I will update you. Studio Jade is held in high regard. We're so impressed with them. They have worked a lot with schools. And so once I start doing my Friday night memo, I'll make you all some beautiful digital versions of that. And that is a letter that they sent to us. So that's where we are with that agenda item. Our educational facility master plan will cover 5 years and beyond. Also part of the plan, and this is good, is a demographic study by NASDAQ. And so that hasn't been done in maybe 15 years or so. So we will get a sense of where our enrollment is trending. And obviously that has everything to do with real estate transactions and access to affordable housing and all sorts of markers like that. So that is, we made sure that that was part of this planning process. It'll give the school committee hard facts and hard data, and also to give the town building the building trust and that planning committee, so, sort of, a roadmap to the future for the town and it's being amenable to young and emerging families. So we're killing a lot of birds with this one stone. We're getting a lot of that out of that $50,000. We'll get some efficiencies. We'll get some, maybe a new space, maybe a permanent outdoor structure. We cannot start looking at, construction projects until this is done and this goes before this school committee. The plan will go before you. The plan will also go before the town council. And so this is the plan that will result in spending more money on this facility. It's not a building project yet, but hopefully it will be the next. Just finished the $500,000 upgrade, hardening the main entrance, so on and so forth. And this is a natural next, and it won't cost us a thing to get this done. Plan.
Probably just follow up.
Yep. Okay.
So can you just clarify that? So the 50,000 is over 5 years
The
for expenditures or?
No, the 50,000 is just to write the plan. The research on demographics, so that we will have enrollment figures projected. What factors play into that? So that's a part of it, not the biggest part. This is just a plan, stage 1 and stage 2. This is just a plan. We cannot move forward with any construction projects unless our planning process follows regulations laid out by the state as certified by the school building authority. So once we get, so the $50,000 is just for the engineering and our engineers and architects to come in, the engineering and architectural firm to come in. And we sort of lay out everything that we want. And that's a 5-year plan. And then we'll prioritize, well, where do we go? Do we want to go with alternative energy? Do we want to go with outdoor learning structures? Do we want to go with extra, reapportion spaces that, more that will meet 21st century students' needs, that sort of thing.
So that the money that it costs, that does not cost us any?
The $50,000 is a grant. So that's just for the plan, which is a requirement of any school construction in any community. And so we definitely want to make changes, always want to upgrade and update the building. Otherwise, it'll fall into disrepair and it won't meet the needs structurally or schematically for 21st century learning. So we'll have to come up with the money.
All right, so let me ask you this question, because I was listening to one of the school committee meetings in Portsmouth, and they did touch on something very similar to this, but they had it for a certain percent. Maybe you may know of this, a certain percentage of their budget back into their buildings. So where are we with this? Do we do that right now? Do we put a certain percentage of our budget back into our buildings now?
Yes, you have to, for maintenance and capital improvements.
Okay.
Now, Portsmouth, if they went for this grant, probably had $250,000. We only have the one tiny school that we do focus on, it's laser-like, support and still an awesome responsibility. But we do have to come up with the money, and it's reimbursed. 35% minimum will be reimbursable. The state will reimburse us. We can likely go up to 40 or 45% if there are components in our construction project that earns points for a higher reimbursement percentage.
It's just that they were talking about having to replace roofs as part of their, one of their projects they talked about. So that would be a capital improvement for sure. What capital improvement have we done if we're supposed to be doing this? Like, other than that, I mean, I know we did the entrance to the building, but I mean,
We did a $500,000.
right, that was 1 year.
We
But I
did the
mean,
gymnatorium. Yeah. John could definitely kind of expense that out for you, but there's always capital improvements going on. We upgraded the boilers. I think we bought 2 new boilers. Well, we bought 1 new one, and then we jerry-rigged another one. We may have to purchase another. We also had to replace one of our hot water tanks, which was very expensive, and that we did that with the stainless steel. We've also had to do work on the water system, on the boosters, the the pressure that pushes everything up the commons. So there's capital improvements every single year in this building.
okay, I'd be interested to see what's our requirement for percentages, and I can wait for John to come back. What's the requirement that we need on,
Fair enough, yeah.
You have a hand up.
Oh,
You have a hand raised?
all right.
John Anderson. Oh, you want,
Hi, John.
I tried to invite you in before. You didn't accept.
Oh, no.
Hold on 1 sec.
Oh, my gosh, John hasn't been in.
He's been listening.
Okay.
There we go. He should pop up in a second there. There he is.
Hello.
John, how are you?
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome, John.
Did you just
Hi.
want to be entered into the meeting or did you have a comment or
No,
something?
I did, because the issue that Mike has raised has come up in other districts. I can't give you dollar amounts because that has to come from John McNamee. But
Right.
to the extent that you have expenses that involve skilled tradesmen, those
Mhm.
count as maintenance
Count.
expenses. So for example, if you bring in somebody to do HVAC work, or somebody who, a glazier to replace glass and windows, those expenses do qualify towards the required expenditure number. Whatever the number is for Little Compton, you met the number because there was only one district in the state that did not meet the number
Right.
last year, and it's not you.
It's not. So, right, we're constantly, well, definitely our heating system. Air Masters is here constantly.
And all those expenses count towards the maintenance.
The town of
Custodial,
plumbing is here a lot.
I mean, it's a big number, Mike.
It is a big,
They're the operator, yeah,
yes,
big number.
it's a biggie.
custodial services do not count.
No,
Okay.
separate.
All right, thank you.
Some.
21-22 planning team update.
Thank you. I think you
You should separate these, have a break.
Good. We're never at a loss for words as educators. We have to stop ourselves sometimes. We're on track. Tomorrow we have another meeting of our back to school planning team at 11:30. I have sent out 2 school year planning community updates, and I will send out another one tomorrow. After tomorrow's meeting, Sonia and I are meeting with the ILO group. It's consultants that were hired by RIDE, the Department of Education, to assist districts in generating their comprehensive back-to-school plans, and also the specific area regarding health and safety. And so we'll be sort of pressure checking with them the draft of the health and safety component of the plan, and also pieces of the comprehensive plan. So Sonia and I will be doing that tomorrow via Zoom. The health and safety component must be submitted on Friday. Sonia and I, after we meet with and sort of pressure check that piece of the plan, we will be submitting it to RIDE. And then we'll have 2 weeks to flesh out our comprehensive plan. I would say it's pretty much done. But there are pieces that we have to suss out, and we started doing that today, definitely. And the planning team will get a look at the comprehensive plan next Thursday. The chair is on that team, and we'll go through that. Once again, these plans are incredibly prescriptive in nature. There's not a lot of latitude. Obviously, there are some areas where there's latitude, but we're in the middle of a global, another resurgence of a global health crisis. And so most districts' plans will look pretty much the same. Our plan last year was so comprehensive, I think it was 92 pages. This plan will be maybe a third of that, if maybe even shorter, because I think we did the hard work last year and now we're tweaking it. So I think things look good. We're hoping our year will look a little bit more normal than last year. We plan to use our cafeteria spaces. We plan to use our gymnasium. Some vestiges from last year, may appear, some of the mitigation efforts, but, we plan to broaden the scope of our stable pods and perhaps do it by grade level. We looked at the data from our families. Sonia sent out a survey and she and I read the results today, and that informed pieces of the plan moving forward. And one thing that the parents did bring up is the fact that the kids, so let's say we're talking about second grade, we had 2 stable pods. We will continue to have two separate classrooms in second grade, but we feel that we can bring those 2 stable pods together more. And so we heard some heartbreaking stories of my daughter's best friend was in, my child's best friend was in the other one. And so we did not do any cross-pollinating last year whatsoever. So there are pieces that we feel like the cafeteria, it'll still be grab and go and not an open servery, but it'll be different from eating in your classroom. And, the gymnatorium is now air conditioned. We all felt that. The wonderful ventilation and air is moving everywhere. We feel that space can be used as well. So that's how we see the year going forward. Still some distancing, but sometimes it's 3 feet rather than 6. Still stable pods, but we may merge, they may be able to interact. That's what we're hoping for. And some of the other mitigation strategies may still be in place, but those are pieces that we definitely are writing into the plan.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. So the plan that needs to be submitted on Friday, part of your health and safety plan, I mean, as you can tell, we have a lot of people that are online and some are for and some are against masking. And I know that's what's on a lot of their minds right now. So is that part of the plan that needs to be submitted by on Friday?
Yes, that will be. And so it won't truly be, it's also part of the comprehensive plan. So it'll still go again into the comprehensive plan. So the reason why school districts have to submit them 2 weeks before the comprehensive plan is so that RIDE and RIDO can look at them. People from RIDO will be looking at them for the next 2 weeks, contacting us, telling us what to change in our comprehensive plan in that component. And so it's not something that is ready yet for public consumption. We'll sort of pressure test it tomorrow. We're going to have the consultants focus on that tomorrow. And because it has to be submitted, and she and I will sit at the dashboard and do that. And not everyone on that team is in agreement on some of the issues, generally around quarantining and around testing. So we're going to we have a few weeks to hash that out as well. But that's what you want. You don't want everyone in agreement. We have such a dream team of 4 subcommittee members. Yeah, so we're busy, but happily, because there will be pieces of the school year that will look like the last one that was 2019 was the last full school year that didn't have some sort of viral component.
So I know that everybody's wondering when they're going to know the final plans and what's going on. And I know that's on a lot of people's minds. And so when should people expect to see that? And more so, and I know we've had discussions that because we're not part of the plan is of reopening. When is the school committee going to be, when are we going to know the feedback, what parents are thinking, what the plan is going forward? So we have a better understanding of what's going on. That's been my concern, and I think I expressed that before to you. As far as it's a hands-on approach, I'd rather have the hands-on approach and know exactly what's going on, so I know what to expect. So when will we know that? When should we expect to know that?
Fair enough. The state has given us till the 27th, and we can submit it before then. So I do believe the comprehensive plan will be ready before then. And just like last year, I pushed it out to the entire community. I put it on the website. I do service that component of the website myself. I pushed it out also in a parent square as an attachment. So we operated in full transparency last year. Absolutely. We had a town hall, even if you remember. And so what I could do, obviously, and I also gave the school committee a sneak peek last year. You did get to see it before everyone else did.
In all fairness, I wasn't on until November.
I know.
So I didn't get to see that. So
It's not a secret. It's just in draft form. It's in draft form. And the data is changing constantly. And so it's hard to finalize any plan. No plan that any district submits will be carved in stone. Absolutely not. We will
Ever.
circle back ever.
Even once
Changed it
it's-
all throughout the year.
And I understand that things always change. One of the things, and I saw the two surveys that Sonia sent out the other day, and I was glad that there's a survey that went out to the parents. That was great. The one concern that I have is that there has been no, at least except for the chair possibly, there has been no input asked from this committee about what we think going forward as far as the opening plan. It's been just strictly the opening committee. You've asked the parents and you've asked the staff. I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but as a committee, we have not been formally asked about any of our input.
Right.
So that really bothers me that here basically we have to answer to the public and nobody's asked us. So that doesn't sit well with me, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna use the T word again. It's the
Sure.
same process that every district has used, the same process we used last year that resulted in, relatively speaking, it was a difficult year for every district. But I think with its imperfections, the Wilbur McMahon School and Little Compton School Department did an admirable job with in-person learning, distance learning, and the hybrid, the hybrid component as well. And you have to trust the process. The process, just like the school building authority, they prescribe who is on those teams, and RIDE prescribed who would be on each district's reopening team. So the chair is always a part of it. There's parents, there are representatives from each collective, the support union, as well as the teachers union, and administration, HR, and IT, et cetera, maintenance. And so you have to trust in the bodies that are being tasked with planning for the school year, conceptualizing it and operationalizing it. And I think we are pretty good at it at this point because we had to learn to pivot. We learned from our mistakes and we made them. But I think you have to trust in the process.
And if I could, I do want to thank you and the team for the concerted effort, the diligent effort that you're making to pull this together. And I honestly have to say that there's never been a time when I have reached out to you with a question, a comment, or an opinion, and you have not called me back or listened to what I have to say. And I think that's one of the strengths of the plan that you're pulling together, is you are listening to everyone who approaches you with, again, an opinion or some sort of advice. So that's what I would have to say about, our collaboration here in this committee. I mean, we are limited in what we can do in rolling quorums. We can't have conversations amongst ourselves around certain things outside of this meeting. But one-on-one, if I ever have a problem, your line's always open. I would just add that. But again, I appreciate your frequent updates. I feel like I'm pretty much in touch with what's happening, and I feel very confident.
We haven't given the planning team their job yet. That starts tomorrow. They'll be looking at the health and safety component. They'll be listening to some opposing viewpoints on some of those mitigation efforts and so forth. It is hard. You feel like you're sitting with sitting on your hands, and I get that. But the comprehensive plan last year, I think I lost count. How many teachers were on it? That is the
Quite a few.
foundation of,
There was 3 or 4 different teams and
we had, so
all the teams,
I think we had nearly
probably a third to a half.
a third to a half of the staff. They were involved last summer in generating that comprehensive piece. They did an amazing job. We had the subcommittees, instruction, assessment, social and emotional support, operations, health and safety. And those subcommittees were huge. And they worked every single morning until we submitted that 92-page document. This year, we've done that work. And so it's more tweaking based on current data, what we know, the mistakes that every district made, building on successes. It's not as labor or time intensive, but it seems just as critical and just, if not more so, because of the variance.
So
So I'd like to say that last year I wasn't on the reopening committee, and I fell out of the loop. But any chance I got, I even at public meetings, I spoke about how I felt about it. I let my opinion be heard, and wasn't always the feeling of everybody else, but it was my opinion and I wanted to share it. I shared it with Lori behind the scenes. I shared it publicly at school committee meetings. I don't think there was anyone that didn't know my opinion about the reopening plan, and I wasn't on the meeting, so in the meeting. So, and we all can't be there because that just doesn't work with the plan to have an opening committee.
Right.
Yeah.
And you shared aspects that some of us agreed with you on, but
Not many, but
aspects. But, and my community updates, I put everything out there. I put the templates out there so everyone knows what we're looking at, the choices that we have, where we need assurances, where we need to flesh out evidence. And we have most of the evidence from last year, from the subcommittee and the main committee last year. So.
Did have a question come in,
Yeah, there was a question on from the public.
Go for it.
which I didn't realize I was still on.
Sorry about that.
I'll count that as a hand raised. So
Okay.
Jeff, if you're there, you should be able to unmute yourself and we would need your full name and address in addition to your question.
Yeah, this is Heather McCarthy, 20 Megan Way. My question was just specifically to reiterate, are we going to know the plan for this coming year on August 27th? Is that when we'll know, or will we know sooner? At least your initial plan.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get a sense tomorrow from the consultants when we start sort of pressure testing pieces of the comprehensive plan. I'm hoping to get a sense tomorrow of, whether or not we're on the right path, whether or not our wording folds in all possible scenarios. And just like last year, I will try, to get it in there well before the 27th and apprise the public with enough time to get ready for, returning to learn. And I will try my best, I assure you. It's not a unilateral process. It is a process that is collaborative, and that's how it should be. But I will promise you, I'm a parent myself, of course, not of school-age kids anymore, but I also needed to know just what I was up against before every school year in terms of childcare and options and so forth. So I will try my best, absolutely. And you'll get dribs and drabs. So tomorrow, I think I will, go through a little bit more of the general plan, the comprehensive plan. And I did that tonight too. We're hoping to use the cafeteria. We're hoping to use the gymnasium. We're going to write those things in. And I think what's on everyone's mind is masking. The good news is we have some time to make those decisions. And any decision will always be based on data and science. But yes, Mrs. McCarthy, I will try as soon as humanly possible to give all parents and students and staff a look at the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Heather.
Oh, can I just do a follow up on that?
Sure.
I just want to make it known that for me, it's not a trust issue by any means. And I think as a school, I think we did a great job. Jonathan did an excellent job with the technology. Sonia with the day-to-day, getting everybody, and I know it's tough going back and forth. That's not the issue for me. The issue for me is just that I feel like I'm in the dark and I got less than 30 days before school starts right now. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. So, and it's got nothing. And yes, if I have a question, you are right there and you'll fire back the email, but or you'll answer me. But I just feel like right now, I have no idea where we stand come.
Mike, you probably know you absolutely know as much as I do, and I'm on the committee. I've learned more tonight. I promise you, you're,
Yeah, we're all in the same
yeah,
situation. We're waiting on.
right. There's like,
I feel you, man. We all got kids. We've got kids in the system
Right.
too, so.
there's a small moment of time that someone on the committee may know slightly more than you, and then Lori updates everybody. So it's a matter of maybe hours. Like, you're up to date with the committee. You know as much as I know, like, I swear to you.
I know slightly more than. And so the template just came 10 days ago. So
And given a part-time superintendent, I think we get a lot of work
I
done
forget
with
that
part-time.
sometimes.
It doesn't seem like part-time.
but it's not that it's an intentional, we're not trying to be opaque here. We're trying to be fully transparent, but it's just not done yet. I don't know any district that has totally firmed it up yet. Broad strokes, yes.
Any more questions over here? No? Okay. Super. Finance report. We have no Mr. McNamee today. He's slacking.
It's not the same.
So I will table his report, but we all have his information in our correspondence. Policy subcommittee report. I'm going to table this till we get down to the action items. That's all right. Yep. Portsmouth School Committee Liaison Report.
Well, they're meeting right now.
I'm still waiting for text.
So I could be in two places, sadly.
Right.
So,
We're glad you chose to be here. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to be here.
They never meet on a Wednesday.
No.
And I did write it in my notes, but maybe Mariah or Carolyn maybe could remind me, or that we should send a note to Portsmouth Committee to let them know that there's going to be a change in liaisons. Okay, I do have that top of my list, but
Like they don't meet in July, so there was nothing to
Okay.
report from July.
and I'd like to thank Hannah for that reminder to do that. Town Rec Committee Liaison Report.
Well, I'm going to pull a Patrick McHugh and say, there's nothing to report.
Okay, excellent. Well, we could say what a wonderful day it was on Saturday at the Mr. Mac Gymnasium dedication.
We could.
I hear there's a movement to just call it the Mac from now on, not Mr. Mac Gymnasium, just the Mac. So
That was
Yeah.
lovely.
That
if
was
we could all
lovely.
get into the habit of just calling it the Mac. But it was a great event, followed by community soccer, which I did not attend because I like my ankles, but I don't know if anyone attended, but it looked like it was well attended and a lot of fun. So
Yeah. And captured in a letter to the editor in the Scott Times this week
Oh,
from
awesome.
superintendent. So,
terrific,
yeah, it was lovely.
great. Wellness Committee?
We are meeting next week. So I will have a report next month.
Do you just have that date, Lita? Is it
Do I have the date, Mariah? I do have a date. Oh, I do.
24th?
Thank you.
She's good.
Right. She did the agenda today.
Discussion item, recycling and composting initiatives at Wilbur McMahon School. That you?
Oh, yeah, that's me. A few weeks ago, I was on a Zoom with a consultant that Carol Wardell brought in to the town, and Tony Texera was on that as well, and so was a local farmer. His name is Chris Goulart. And so we discussed food scraps in the cafeteria, possibly food scraps at the community center, just food scraps in town in various programs. And so we're just in the talking phases right now, not even planning. But I believe September 15th, I've asked someone from Chotwell's to come down, and also the consultant from the state regarding composting. And Mr. Goulart will be there as well. And the consultant will will visit Mr. Goulart's farm. And he's not sure that it's going to be the perfect fit for him, but he does a lot of composting and he plants trees in compost. Chartwell's has a pretty strict no scrap policy, but there are food scraps that we definitely pour into that refuse stream, and it gets stinky at the landfill, and it gets, we get fees added on if the school waste is the tonnage, the town waste, and so on, so forth, goes over a certain amount. So yeah, it's another collaboration, across the community, cross systems. So yeah, like I said, we're just talking about it, but before you hear from somebody else, I did want to tip you off.
Thank you. Public input or topics for future agendas. So anyone, Mr. Lord has his hand raised, but anyone can speak now or at any time during the meeting. I know we have some policies coming up that people may want to comment on, and that's fine then as well. But Mr. Lord?
I will unmute him in 1 second. I was just going to say there's a lot of new people here. If anybody's not familiar, just use the raise hand button and leave that up while you have a question, and we will bring you or grant you the ability to talk in the meeting. So Roger's up first and then Andrew Ryan.
Okay. Mr. Lord,
Ed Roger, you should be able to unmute.
can we have your address, please?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes, perfect.
I live at 29 Bramblewood Cross in Little Compton.
All right, thank you. You have a question?
Yes, I asked a question of Lori not that long ago, and she gave me a pretty good answer regarding critical race theory. But things have a way of changing over time. So I'm curious as to whether or not that has become an issue, or is it up for discussion? What is going on with that at Wilbur?
So we could put this on the agenda for a future meeting. Because it's not on this agenda, none of us can speak about it. So I'd be happy to put it in my notes for a future agenda. That works for you?
That would work for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, Andrew Ryan, you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, thank you. Andy Ryan, 40 Pageant Brook Road. I just wanted to formally ask that you, I was a little surprised by an answer I got in the policy committee meeting about mandating vaccines for faculty and staff, and that had to be somehow transmitted through the unions. And I would like to formally ask the schools committee take that up. If that's the process that has to be followed, and begin following that. And I was also curious if we could get numbers and updates on the percentage, we don't need the number, but the percentage of faculty and staff and also students that are vaccinated.
I did do that.
Yeah, yes. Did you get an update last week about the percentage of students vaccinated in Parent Square?
It currently stands at 41% of our eligible 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We're trying to move the needle, and that's why Our vaccination clinic for students is a week from tomorrow, the first vaccine. And the second one will be September 9th.
And then faculty and staff?
So I'm up to put anything for a discussion on the policy committee. I'm not really sure that's a policy because it involves our unions. John Anderson, can you help me out on this?
Sure.
Where can we put this for
Sure.
discussion?
Yeah. Let me say a couple of things. First of all, the purpose of public comment is for the public to express their concerns and for the school committee to either put it on and to listen, number one. And then number two, if appropriate, to put on a future agenda. And not everything that gets brought up at public comment necessarily translates to a future agenda item. With regard to, I will very briefly respond though to, because I'm not a member of the school committee, to what was said with Mr. Ryan said with regard to faculty vaccination. The district can't answer that question with regard to faculty because we don't collect the information from employees.
Oh, as far as the percentage of vaccinations.
That is correct.
Okay, I believe there's another question on the table as to whether or not we would consider mandating vaccinations or maybe.
And I would suggest that be taken up either by the policy committee or the negotiating committee.
Oh.
And is that, would the policy committee invite the presidents of the unions to that meeting?
Yes.
The health and safety component, if I may, Chair, of this new iteration of the back to school plan. Year 2 of the back to school planning process includes an area in the health and safety component regarding an opt-in process, voluntary for staff. Opt-in in terms of revealing vaccination status. You'll be hearing more of that tomorrow at the planning committee meeting. And so I'm reasonably certain that the subcommittee, the health and safety, the health support committee, the health and safety component, I'm reasonably certain that they're all in favor of a voluntary vaccination status opt-in for faculty and staff. And that is one of the fields that was added to this year's template from the Department of Health and RIDE. So we are contemplating and discussing these issues, Dr. Ryan, tomorrow. At the start is a voluntary opt-in to reveal vaccination status. So there's no red tape and no systems in between.
So thank you for those, and I appreciate that you would be willing to take this issue up. And I would also like to thank the superintendent for responding to my emails very promptly and thoroughly as well. She's been very good about answering questions. And I also realize that the school committee and the superintendent has been hamstrung a little bit by this slow action of the state with their planning process, and that you've just gotten the documents in the last 10 days or so.
Right.
Thank you.
We have another hand.
Yep.
It says Christine Oliveira.
See?
We shall see. You should be able to unmute yourself. Please state your name and full address.
Christine Oliveira, 49 Long Highway. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good.
Okay. Thank you for letting us speak. I have a comment as well as a question, if I could. Okay, thank you. So last year, I chose to homeschool our children when all of this started, rather to send them to school masked. And during that time, while we were homeschooling, I did quite a bit of researching on the short and the long-term health and mental effects wearing masks for the period of time while they're in school. And what I came across, and I'd be glad to share my studies, was enough evidence for me to not want to subject my children to any of those potential issues. So fast forward to last night, where the governor announced that he was going to be leaving the mask mandate policies up to the school districts. Just as I've done my research, I know many other parents have as well. And I feel as parents, when it comes to masking, the decision for our children really should be a decision of our own, the parents. And one of my biggest questions is, and I'm not here advocating that all parents, want either the children masked or unmasked. I'm here advocating that parents want the choice to have the choice to decide what's best for their children. So my biggest question is, if the children are forced to wear masks and any health issues occur during school, who is going to be held responsible for those issues?
Question for John.
Right, is John Anderson still here?
I don't see him.
Oh,
Sure, let me
there he
respond to,
is. Thank you.
let me respond to that by saying that, as an attorney, I represent multiple school districts. My law firm represents multiple, probably the majority of districts outside of the city of Providence and the city of Warwick and Pawtucket in the state. And there has not been a single lawsuit arising from the issue of harm or somebody wearing a mask. And indeed, I'm not aware of a lawsuit anywhere that has been brought on that basis.
And if there is?
And if there is, a parent would have to prove and have expert testimony to show the link. So in terms of it happening, I'm not going to speculate any more than I'm going to speculate that a meteorite is going to hit Little Compton in terms of whether or not someone is going to bring that lawsuit. To date, and we've been doing this for a while now, no, but there have been no lawsuits that I'm aware of, let alone successful lawsuits based on that theory.
Thank you.
Did you have oh, that was your question. Sorry, your statement and your question. Is that it? Ms.
Yes.
Auger? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else right now?
Thought I saw one more, but maybe they put their hand down.
Oh, there we go. Chartier's.
You just labeled Chartier, same thing. You will be allowed to talk. Please state your full name and address. Hope you have to unmute yourself first, though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, Kimberly Chartier, 9 High Meadow Road.
Okay, go ahead.
The question is, the new Health and Safety Committee that has been formed, that is submitting all of this information, are parents allowed between now and the 27th to give their opinion on, or their thoughts on mask wearing, testing, quarantining, or is it all going to be backed by data and science, and parents really, their opinion really doesn't matter?
You're always allowed to share your opinions with the school committee or the superintendent. We have received people's opinions and emails as a whole, and I am quite sure the superintendent has as well. Email is probably the best way to reach us all.
Okay, so I do have a few questions that maybe you would know the answers to. One of them is, has anyone done a study on the mask to say that wearing them for 7 hours a day, all day long, is healthier than breathing in fresh air? Has anyone done any research on that?
I think I'm going to need John Anderson to jump in on here because I'm not trying to avoid any conversation because this is a favorite conversation of mine. I just want to make sure I'm staying within the parameters of our meeting.
Yeah, with regard to your question, I believe that there have been many studies that have been documented in many places that have spoken to masks reducing the transmission of COVID-19 and other other diseases in addition to COVID-19, like influenza and the common cold.
We received, is this a public document, Lori?
Is that?
The AMA?
They released that. I believe.
Yes, they.
Good, okay. So we received a great letter from the American Academy of Pediatrics that they've released. I'm guessing that we could share it with you by email if you wanted to take a look at that.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay.
Another question I have is that we don't wear masks during flu season, and the flu is a lot more deadlier than COVID has ever been by far, especially for kids. So I'm a little curious as to why we don't wear them for the flu, but we're wearing them for COVID, and we've had no children dying in Rhode Island of COVID whatsoever.
So we're going to be following the CDC guidelines. We're going to be following the American Academy for Pediatrics. We're going to be watching the data. This is a global pandemic, and our number one goal is to keep our kids safe, and that is going to drive our decision making.
Okay, so I guess lastly, I just want to say the decision of this magnitude is being left in the hands of the school committee. Is that what you're saying? That the parents really don't have, they can't really share their opinion because it's really not being looked at? It's just what the school committee or that new health committee decide?
No, that's not what I said at all. I said that we would welcome your emails and your opinion and your data. And we all look at our emails and take it into consideration and do a lot of research on our own. We welcome everyone's voice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions or comments? Oh, we got another one.
This looks like Christine Oliveira again.
Okay.
Christine, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, this is Gary, Christine's husband, also from 49 Long Highway. I'm listening and I keep hearing the question get brought up, but not really an answer. We are the parents of the children in the town which we all choose to live. We elect the people that we like to see as the face and the voice of ourselves. And the question keeps getting asked, who's going to make the decision? Do the parents have any input? And it's great. We like to know that we can send an email or we can ask a question. But we, as the parents, I think would like to be able to make a decision, have a vote, have a say, and not just leave it in the hands of the school committee, who, like you said, makes, you're reviewing the information, you're taking it all into account. But in the end, it's what the school board says, it's what the government says, it's what we as the parents would like to see or feel. Is that really the answer?
It really is the answer. I'm sorry, of course, you can make choices with your kids out in public, at home. You're ultimately in other places and not a public building, able to make the decisions for your children. But as you said in the first part of your statement, you elected us to make these decisions. And here we are. That's why we're elected, because we can't have everyone just voting on every topic that happens in Little Compton. So I urge you to send your research, your information, your opinions to us so that we can take a look and form an opinion.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Is there one more? Or no?
That doesn't look like it.
No, okay. Action items. First up is the second read of the flag policy. We did make some changes in our policy meeting. I believe Mariah has the new document available. Basically, the only thing we added from the first read was Hannah had noticed that there are 3 events that can happen if an active school committee member, administrator, teacher, or other employee passes away, but only 2 actions that happen for students or former students, school committee members. So we're not sure why that was left off. So we've added flowers or donations will be sent as appropriate to both an active student, the active student section, and the former student school committee member or administrator section.
It was only added under active student, but that.
Oh, I can't see that far. Oh, yeah. Mariah, can you add it also to under former student, school committee member, or administrator, please? Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Mike?
Could we add a line item to it? And it could be at the very bottom where it said, it shall comply with any and all town flag ordinances.
I am not comfortable doing that as we are
I am
a
not either.
What's the verbiage?
separate, complying with all town ordinances.
I mean, I don't know why that's,
We don't follow any other town policy that we don't necessarily need to actively run our school building. And I feel like it's in the best interest of our students, our staff, and the community as a whole to do what we feel is best as a school in terms of raising flags. And sometimes that might not align itself with what the town council thinks is best.
The town council hasn't even started this conversation.
I understand that, but we're at that point right now. So that's why I said any and all. So we don't know what it's gonna be. Again, I've said this at the last meeting and I asked for input from the administrator. You were gonna go back and follow up with that. And from what I understand, there has been no follow up to that. So
I reached out to them. They had no follow-up back to me.
okay. I guess, like I said before, the last time, this is still a town building. This is owned by the town. I understand it's a school, but it's still owned by the townspeople that, so I don't understand why there's such an issue of us being unified with all the buildings in town that are owned.
But we're not unified, like we're not on our mask policy, we're not putting, according to town mask policy on our, whatever other policies we're doing tonight. Yeah, exit interviews or anything. We never say according to any and all town ordinances. And they don't even have anything. So we could say that they could draft something that was horrendous, not that they would, but they could. And we've already got it into our policy that we're going to follow along.
So if we go and if they, and I don't know what their flag ordinance is gonna be. I have no idea what that's gonna be. So if they draft something up and then we go violate that, what their ordinance is, what happens at that point?
We will review our policy, and I would suggest that we hold off on adding any language regarding the town until we see that policy. And if you feel like that policy is better or should be referenced in our own policy, then I think the policy subcommittee would be more than happy to look at our flag policy again, because as we've discussed with multiple other policies before, these are things that are constantly evolving and that we'll constantly revise and update as needed.
So when will this policy be renewed again?
Whenever we feel like it needs to be. If you would like to ask the policy subcommittee to put it on an agenda during public input of one of our meetings, I'm sure the chairperson would be happy to do that.
We just did the second read of the dress code policy in June, and it was already on our policy meeting again today. So
We do have a question.
Yes. Oh, I thought you had a question.
Sorry, Gina.
Oh, no, we're not accepting any questions or comments from that fella. All right, let him in. Make sure you get his name and address.
Patrick, you need to update your version of Zoom, but I can bring you in as a panelist temporarily. You still need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Hi, my dogs are barking.
Oh, okay.
This chairperson, I'm sorry. I just wanted to update you guys. I know you're talking about what the town council is doing. So the correspondence you had with the council, Polly, it's been almost 4 weeks now since you sent that over. And also, what the council has decided is that President Mushin and Tony Texera are going to draft an ordinance for the council. They don't have a time period on it yet. I know it's, like I said, it's been about 4 weeks, but I do know they're going to study Bristol's ordinance. So that's the update I have on that. But Mike brought up something that made me think, and I was hoping you could ask your attorney. Are there other towns that own school buildings besides the circumstances we're in?
And the answer to that is that on the one hand, the council has the ability to pass ordinances of general application that apply across the town. On the other hand, state law says that care, custody, and control of school buildings is vested in the school committee, not in the town council. I think that the best approach here is, rather than anticipate a collision, is the suggestion that was made by one of the members of the school committee to wait and see exactly what the town council does. There is a specific place on the agenda item where members of the school committee can ask for items to be put on the next a future agenda. And if there is a inconsistency or a concern or a lack of harmony, then the school committee can discuss it at that time. But at the moment, the problem doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Anything else, Mr. McHugh?
Thank you, Polly.
Okay. Mike, really, we have a super robust policy committee. We're willing to tackle anything, even things that possibly we don't agree on. I mean, this is the whole committee has to approve it, so we're willing to go after anything.
I just find it that in other policies, we reference other state laws that we must make sure that we comply with, but when it comes time for the town buildings, we don't want to look at that.
Yeah, did you
I
read
think
what
that
he
John
said?
Anderson just
John
answered,
said?
sorry, Travis, to interrupt you, but I think that John just answered that question, Mike, is that while yes, this is a town building, the ability to run the school building is vested in us. And that is what we're doing here by approving or not this flag protocol. And we would invite you again to, in public comment, at a policy subcommittee meeting, ask for this to be reviewed when and if the town council makes up an ordinance of their own. I think if anything, it shows that we are taking a stand in producing our own flag protocol. And I would hope that the town council looks at that as an example when they are drafting their own.
Yeah, I don't agree with that statement, but we can continue on. That's fine.
Okay. Travis, you have anything to add?
No, again, I think that it's very worthwhile. What Mike is suggesting is very worthwhile, but not until we know what the council is going to do. And then we can have a real discussion, not a speculative discussion. So I think it's perfectly fair to have this discussion. But I just think it's a question of timing, and that, we should see what the council has to say first.
Yes. If they come up with a stellar policy that bypasses ours, by all means. Any other comments on the flag policy? Nope. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Holly Howell,
Aye.
Travis Alati,
Aye.
Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
No.
Thank you. The motion passes
Next on, under action items is 11.2, consider, discuss, and vote to amend the student dress code policy. There is no need. We had this on our policy committee meeting, just as a precaution to make sure when we looked at our mask policy, that if they overlapped, we had it on the agenda so we could discuss it. So there's no need to do any changes there. Consider, discuss, and vote to adopt the mask policy. We have a first draft. I believe it's attached to the agenda for all to see. Yes, can someone confirm that? for me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, super. So everyone, if you cannot see it on your screen, it's also available attached to the agenda. As a hyperlink, you should be able to click on it and open it up and check it out. So this is the first read. We'll not be voting on it tonight, but we are going to be discussing it. And the wording that is that we strongly recommend all individuals, unvaccinated individuals, to be masked, but it also puts it on the superintendent along with the opening committee to determine what mask wearing will be, and allows the superintendent to make a decision on her own if need be, if data changes or there's any health emergency that she needs to. Any discussion? Mike?
Number 5, where it says along with the school planning team, I would like that to say along with the school committee.
Okay, so if you printed out your policy beforehand, it's been changed. Okay, all right, I just didn't know who's looking at what. Oh, sorry, it's right up there. I don't know. I feel like that's a sticky situation since the planning team has been tasked with that by the state. I don't know. I'm open for discussion here.
Are we talking about the same bullet point? Mike, did you say 5 or did you say?
I'm sorry, it's 6. I'm sorry, it's 6.
Yeah.
I misspoke.
Instead of the school year planning team, you want it to say the school committee.
That's correct. So per your conversation during your policy meeting, it was mentioned that it could be either the superintendent in the schools, or it could be just the superintendent in the school committee, or it could be just the superintendent. That was part of the conversation. And then the planning team got put up again. Because of the way that things are right now, I still feel that we don't know what's going on. And if we're part of that, at least we're put into the loop and we know what's going to happen.
I think the only thing, and I think Superintendent Dias-Mitchell spoke to this, and correct me if I misspeak, Lori, that I think the reason we put the school year planning team on there instead of the school committee is because when we bring in the whole school committee, that involves Open Meeting Act. And I think it's a lot more difficult to have those discussions and decisions in a timely manner, which is obviously one of the most important pieces here when we're dealing with the pandemic and school starting in less than a month.
I'd like to add as well, the school year planning team is comprised of people with expertise in areas that I'm going to admit I do not have. And so I think that team has the most current information and access to like the best decision making. I'd like to know things too, but as a part of a real quick decision making process, we could add the 5 of us, or rather 4 additional, because you're on this team. We could, but it could potentially slow things down. It could potentially slow down a decision where we can get the information on the phone or in email. But that's my concern.
So I just want to follow up with that, is that per John's comment during the policy meeting was that there's even questions whether those meet the planning, I don't know, the school planning team meetings need to be posted or not posted. So we could be right back in that same case scenario, whether they have to post their meetings or whether we would have to post meetings.
As of right now, they do not have to post their meetings though, and again, if we become non-compliant with whatever rules, then the policy subcommittee will definitely be looking at this again and revising.
That component is only about communicating around the policy, how to push it out, how to.
I thought it was under the decision to give you just solely the decision. Am I wrong in that?
But that's number 5, exigent that's in the event of a mandatory order is issued or the event is a change in circumstances in which the superintendent determines it's necessary to immediately alter the district's response, and notwithstanding this policy, the superintendent is directed to forthwith amend the district's response to COVID-19 pandemic and to conform with all such orders. And so
I believe during your policy meeting, you guys referenced number 5, because I've got it written down right here.
yes, and John told us to keep it that way. And then number 6 is really just about pushing out communication, how to do that. And getting back to the planning process. The planning process is just like the school committee itself. Unanimity is not required, it's consensus. And so, you need 3 to 2. So it's the same thing with a planning committee. Unanimity is not expected, but consensus is, and that's how these.
So
it doesn't have to be unanimous.
Right. So I'll correct what I said. So the discussion at the policy meeting was that as far as who would make that decision. And it was brought up at that time, again, so it does reflect back to number 5, that it could be solely just the superintendent or the superintendent and the school committee.
Right.
And so according to this, there's options on how that can be decided, whether it's just the superintendent or the superintendent and the school committee. And according to the way that this is written, this is strictly the superintendent only.
That is to remain agile and at point of need decision-making.
If
can happen.
If on Friday, right, Friday is when the state numbers come out, is that when the state releases the report on COVID numbers?
It's usually Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, okay, I'm sorry.
This is our 3rd week in a row. Little Compton is having cases after 4 weeks without. We've had 3 consecutive weeks of cases.
So if the state came out with something on a Friday that, numbers were up, it was scary, schools need to look at their policies again. The school committee would have to wait until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to make a decision according to open meetings laws.
And this was very much what happened for last year's opening. We went through the same conversation and it made perfect sense. We're talking about a really critical situation where someone has to make the decision. And I'm happy that you're there to make the decision.
Yeah, so that's why we also have the emergency meeting where we can have an emergency meeting if need be, as long as it's posted, right? Because that was one of the things that came up and that I was concerned about, that we all be notified in case of any emergency situation. And I remember at that time, John's comment was that there's never been an emergency that we've had to have that.
Right, but so as John said in the policy meeting, if we're trying to form a emergency meeting and some of us are out of town or some of us are sick and we all have to be in person, it's gonna slow things down.
But with the way with technology is, we've got people that can come in on a.
We can't Zoom anymore. The executive order has ended and all 5 of us have to be here in person going forward, unless an executive order is put back in place. So
when did that end?
July 23rd, 2021.
So our meetings, so you basically skirted underneath that when you were at home. just for that first meeting and then.
I was.
Our July meeting, Polly was in compliance with the OMA. That was
Yeah.
on July
July
9th, I believe. And we were still under the executive order saying that we could have hybrid Zoom meetings. We are no longer under that executive order, which is why we're all still all sitting here tonight.
You went to that training.
Yeah. Yes, that was all part of the training that I referenced the question to Mariah earlier. Which if you'd like to view that as well,
Yeah, it's on
Mariah
YouTube.
emailed it to us.
And you can
It's
get
on
some
YouTube.
PD hours or whatever we call them.
It's always a good refresher.
Yep. Travis, you have anything you wanna, what do you think?
No, I mean,
Are you good with it the way it is? Do you wanna add any
I'm
changes?
comfortable the way it is and I feel comfortable empowering Lori in the event of a situation where she has to make a decision. You know, she's in the trenches. She understands the safety of the children, the circumstances that will be presented. I'm good with that.
Anyone else? Any comments from the public? Okay, so this will be on the next meeting, which I'm assuming we're gonna have a meeting before our regularly scheduled meeting, because we're gonna have some, I'm not positive, but no one looks like we might have a meeting before, but I'm assuming we're gonna have a meeting before school opens because we have policies and things that need to be approved. Maybe not, I don't know. All right, next, consider, discuss, and vote to approve the 2021-2022 Little Compton School Department Calendar.
Word is in.
Word is in from Portsmouth.
We follow the Portsmouth School Department's calendar every year because our high school students matriculate there and we share buses, we share kids, and parents can be on the same page in terms of parents who have kids in the middle school, elementary school, and high school. And the Portsmouth School Department School Committee voted tonight to change the start date from the 7th, the Tuesday of September, to the 8th. So they voted just minutes ago and texted that to me. I don't think anyone was sure that that change would go through. And we have always followed them throughout our history as their grade leader. And so I'm asking the school committee to acknowledge that change. And it is not a requirement for you to vote on it, but it is a courtesy that I bring that information to you. And if you wish to, you may.
So it's on here for a vote.
Go for it.
Okay.
All right, I just want to ask a question. on the
Okay.
calendar. Where it says staff PD / distance learning day, is that going towards our 180 days?
Yes, that's coming right from the Department of Ed.
So the kids will be learning at home and that'll be considered as a regular school day?
That's how it,
It's like last year.
just during these special circumstances.
There were a few of those last year.
Yes.
State mandated PD days were, I believe, was it 3 hours in the morning the students did, or 4 hours, depending on the
Different each day.
grade level and everything, and those were counted towards the 180 days.
So I guess when I look at this and I say they're gonna have distance learning days, so is that, are they gonna do the 3 hours on the computer again? During that time? Is that what we're doing with that?
But it's different every grade level, but it would be, sort of a focus in the morning, a focused lesson, and then independent work thereafter. And it
Yeah,
depends
it
on
would,
the age
it would
group.
most likely be a check-in with the teacher in the morning.
Right.
And depending on the grade level, different types of independent assignments to work on.
I just kind of see this as that this contradicts the whole philosophy about everybody back in person, wanting everybody back in person and not distance learning. And then here we are, we would write it into the calendar that they're gonna be distance learning on PD days.
This is from RIDE, correct? I mean,
It's a unified
I understand. This is
okay.
A general statement of
Okay.
it conflicts of what they're trying to say.
It's a fair point. It is year 2 of the state unified calendar. They give a little bit of leeway here, there, and everywhere. But it's another wonky year where RIDE has prescribed our calendar.
I just think they're contradicting themselves by saying they want everybody back in school, but on these PD days, they can learn from home, so that's contradiction. But
Welcome to the government.
I guess they could just extend the school year another.
Sometimes it can be maddening.
I don't know.
RIDE, RIDE wants to bake in. Last year it was 6 PD days. I think the upcoming year it's 5. They want to bake that in because they know teachers were asked to launch modalities that they were not conversant in ever and had to climb some steep learning curves. So it's a teacher-friendly schedule, that's for sure. I'm not saying that I disagree with your viewpoint, though.
so can you just answer the question? So if we hypothetically go with the 8th, that's going to push us into the 27th, because the 24th is on a Friday. That's going to push us into the 27th, right? Which would be the following Monday.
Mhm.
And isn't there a restriction as far as how far we can go?
June 30th.
And what happens with the snow days? If we get a lot of winter snow days,
There's no snow days.
No snow days.
It's learning.
Man.
that's going to be official. Is that official?
I think it's official here. Yeah. We have a workaround because we have such incredible technology.
And that's where I think the distance learning has benefited us, Mike, and that's maybe not to speculate at all about what the people at RIDE or the state government are thinking, but that's kind of, I think, a way by baking in this PD to a distance learning day is how we don't extend the school years very far. And yes, while they want everyone in person as much as possible, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a distance day every once in a while, which I think this calendar reflects. And hopefully we can have the students in for the 175 days and distance learning for the other 5. And there are programs around town that offer distance learning support pods, so they wouldn't just be at home by themselves as well.
Yeah,
It's a fair point.
I don't.
It's a fair point.
I don't.
Technology's coming. I mean, the idea that you're going to have to go to school every day is slowly going to change. And I know it's tough for everybody to handle now, but they're building these days in twofold, like she said, to help the teachers, but then also to keep the children engaged should we have to do some sort of situation where they're at home again.
Right.
So it keeps everything fresh and it's changing so rapidly. So, I mean, I feel you, Mike, but at the same time, it's like our vote against RIDE in the entire state of Rhode Island. I think that their foresight for the next, not just 2021, but 2025, 2030, what does that look like? So distance learning is not going anywhere.
So I don't want us to set a precedent going forward when RIDE doesn't have any more say in us and they give it back to us as far as what our schedule can be.
We're not setting a precedent though, Mike, because this calendar is dictated to us by RIDE. So when RIDE no longer tells us what we have to do, we are then allowed to say whether or not we want PD days to be a full day off like it was when I came to school here. And that is something that we will decide at that point. But the 2021-2022 school year is not up to us to decide right now. It's up to
I
RIDE.
understand that. That's why I said I don't want to set a precedent going forward to say, well, we did it for the past 2 years and it works. That's what I'm saying, because not every kid learns the same way at home as they do in school. Some kids need to have that interaction in school. with
Definitely.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I was one of those students
100%.
that I
Absolutely.
finished my college degree online and I absolutely hated it. I couldn't learn online, but I think that until RIDE no longer dictates our calendar, that would be a discussion for another school year. And it might have been a good idea and it might inform how we discuss further school years.
Do I have a motion to approve a school calendar with a change in a start date to September 8th?
Could we say motion to adopt Portsmouth's school calendar?
I'm not sure if they have the same PD days and other.
Burn sync 100%.
Absolutely, no change, no, yep, okay, sure, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, okay. Motion to adopt Portsmouth's 2021-22 school calendar.
Second.
Vote by roll call.
Polly Allen,
Aye.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, next, consider, discuss, and vote to approve the COVID-19 vaccination resolution. So, let's see. Here we go. We made one little change in the policy meeting. So, yep, I see it.
Yep.
Yep. This came about when we were discussing whether we could mandate vaccinations or not, and this seemed to be the best we could do at the time, and it helps us take a stand in supporting public health and the current CDC-ish guidelines, and promotes vaccinations because I think the campaign is now's the time. Really putting our showcasing that our kids' health is really important to us, and that we are taking it seriously. So oftentimes we adopt resolutions from other school committees, sometimes tweaking them a little. There doesn't seem to be another resolution around like this. Maybe since we did some research, there has been, but we would like to adopt this resolution. Any comments? Anyone have any
Excuse me,
concerns?
what's the minor change?
Oh, so masking wasn't in, so
The third
third paragraph down, whereas screening,
Ventilation,
testing,
masking.
so masking wasn't in that list, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Yep. 16, yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
no comments on this? I move to, and because this is a resolution, we do not need to do a second read. We can consider and vote right now. So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Helen? Aye.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Terrific. Now, is protocol to share it far and wide since we get everyone else's resolutions?
Yes.
Seems that way. All right. Consider, discuss, and vote to approve the student handbook. Mrs. Whip, do you have anything to say about the student handbook?
There really are no huge shifts in the document. It is reflecting policies that have been adopted in the past year. So for instance, the school dress code policy was changed because your policy changed. Times of the lunches, names of the staff members, things like that have been changed. So this is a pretty solid document pending changes that might occur over the next couple of weeks at this level.
I see this is not on for a first and second read, and I feel like we've had this conversation before that we just need to approve it. Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the student handbook?
You have a motion.
Second.
All in favor by, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Polly.
No, you're right.
Polly Allen,
Aye.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Carolyn. Consider, discuss, and vote to dispose of furnishings and technology. Jonathan Gabriel, would you like to say anything about this list of junk?
Yeah, I can. That is exactly what it is. So we have a short list here of all stuff that for the vast majority of it is either broken beyond repair costs, making sense, or has far exceeded its useful life. So just really quickly to run through a few of them, there's a CRT, like one of those old tube TVs on a cart that we still have lying around.
Oh, that might be worth some money.
5 smart boards that are all broken or beyond salvage or repair value. 8 projectors that were mostly sitting in storage that are in the same boat. 15 desktop monitors, a laptop cart with some old Windows laptops, 4 iPad carts, which we've moved away from having a cart-based system in the classroom towards one-to-one assignments, and suddenly have many, many extra carts besides those 4. 12 iPads where the repair cost exceeds their value, 4 document cameras that are broken, 10 desktop computers from like the mid 2000s, 6 Chromebook carts, which are the old models of Chromebooks that we had since replaced with all the new stuff we got right in the middle of last year. Those will not be disposed of. Those will be recycled and donated. 3 desktop printers, all broken, 15 toner cartridges that we either don't own the printers anymore and they were just in storage, or those printers are now broken. And some miscellaneous old keyboards, mice, wiring, that kind of stuff. And then on the furniture side of things, we have some old wooden conference tables that are also mostly broken, held together with like duct tape, and matching chairs. About 40 mismatching classroom chairs that are mostly broken, and mostly in storage. 8 older broken tables and desks from storage closets around the school, and 60 humidifiers, also broken.
Excellent.
A lot of storage space back.
I was gonna say I haven't walked around the school in a year and a half or whatever, but in past walks around, all of the storage was full of junk.
Yeah.
I mean, literally like tables that it takes, 4 superhuman people to carry because they're from, I don't know when, 50s or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
and some of it is a safety hazard if we would ever use it again,
right.
being held together with old metal brackets and that kind of thing.
And I did hear you say recycle and donate whenever possible.
Yeah, so anything, especially anything that I deal with, gets submitted for buyback first. So if there's still any value left in the items,
Yep.
get that as credit towards buying something new. If not, it would get donated if it is usable. If not, it would get recycled properly according to whatever requirements.
Excellent.
Ask Jonathan something.
Sure.
So not this particular list that you're referring to, but prior to when you did this the last time, I believe it was iPads, and you talked about buyback on that time with value. Do you recall, did we get anything for that?
We actually still have them. They typically give you better deals if you combine them all into one big lot. So that was more towards the end of last school year. We decided to hold on to those, and the vendor that we have for buyback on that stuff is going to come down and pick them all at once. They're not much. It's like $4 per iPad or something like that, because they are the original iPad model that came out in like 2000. Actually, I think that's second generation, so like 2008 or so. But a few dollars here and there is better than nothing. Certainly, it might buy as a document camera or 2.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve the disposal of the furnishings and technology?
Second.
I vote by roll call, please.
Polly Allen,
Aye.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Anna Ayat,
Aye.
Rita Kenahan,
Aye.
Michael Rocha.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Terrific. Next on the agenda, 11.8, consider, discuss, and vote to approve any requests for information from administration and/or legal counsel via roll call. So I mentioned this last month for Travis. I think it's worth mentioning again. This is especially with all back to school plans going on, that it's super important that we don't overtax our administration, John McNamee, John Anderson. I am certainly not suggesting that you cannot send them an email, give them a call and ask them a question. But if anything is to accumulate any of their time, any substantial time that would cost the district money and take away from important opening school and other plans, then it is super important that you ask here and we vote on it. If any of their resources, if they're spending 2, 3, 4, 5 hours collecting documents and we haven't all voted on it. It's not so cool.
No.
So that's why that's on there. So I did put that. So Mike, you were talking about capital plan earlier and asking Mr. McNamee. That would probably be a great example of something that could take a lot of his time, maybe putting past capital plan information together. I'm not sure. But you know, something that is more than, you know, hey, can you send me this or whatever, should be on the agenda for a request and a vote. Okay?
Yes.
Super. Before we adjourn, does anyone in the audience have any more questions? I want to give you another chance to speak up. Again, feel free to email us all, so we all have the same information. You can email Mariah and she can forward it all to us. We're happy to look at everyone's opinion and everyone's data and come to a opinion about it.
When is our next meeting date?
Our next meeting date, I don't have my calendar.
It's September 14th.
September.
Around then, it's
It's a Tuesday.
second
It's a
Wednesday of
Wednesday.
September.
So, but I am suspecting that we will have, that Mariah will be reaching out to see availability for a special meeting.
Prior, yes.
Just like last year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, before you conclude, can I ask a question first so that everybody's clear? There's a gentleman that asked as far as who makes the decision on the final opening plan. And you mentioned that the school committee, I believe, makes that. And I just want to clarify that and go, so I know who makes that final.
RIDE. Ultimately, RIDE is the one to approve the plan. I shared the template last week with the entire community, and so there's not a lot of leeway. You'll see all of the different areas that we have to flesh out as a district, as a school. The planning team will take a look at it. They will give their feedback. They haven't even done that yet. Tomorrow's the beginning of that process. And we'll be meeting with the consultants tomorrow to get a chance to figure out if we're on the right track. This is, you know, a reopening point, 2.0. All stakeholder groups are represented on the planning team. Their parents, their staff, and that's.
So the five of us are not voting on the opening plan.
Polly's on the,
Right, Polly's on.
on the committee.
No, it's.
Because that was one of the questions that was asked before, and I made a note to ask that question, just so that we're clarifying on that. Ultimately, the school committee is not voting on this.
The Department of Ed, in concert with the Department of Health, they approve the plans. And it goes back and forth. They might ask for changes. Trying to think of last year, there were 2 sections that we had to revise just a bit and clarify. So yeah, most plans look the same. It's the focus is to keep kids safe and return to learn. And teachers and staff as well.
Okay, everyone all set out there? No.
No question.
John Anderson, anything to add? I saw your face pop up.
Nope. Have
No?
a good
Okay.
evening.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Whoa, it's a tie.
Echo.
Okay. Vote by roll call.
Holly Allen,
Aye.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Anna Ayat,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan.
Aye.
Michael Rubin.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Committee.
Good night.
Good night, John.
Yes.